Released a rather very interesting insight report that tells you exactly how much the Indiana Fever's social media engagements are actually monetarily worth, either on X or YouTube or Facebook or Instagram, whatever. I mean, all these posts have a monetary value to them based on engagement.
The Indiana Fever social media account just posted something that has the entire WNBA world in absolute meltdown mode right now. 2 minutes ago, Stephanie White went live, and what she confirmed has fans, critics, and even rival teams scrambling to process what this actually means. Caitlin Clark just won a $10 million Fame Award. And before you think this is just another accolade or some symbolic trophy, let me tell you, this changes everything. The money is real, the recognition is undeniable, and the timing couldn't be more perfect, because just days ago, a bombshell report dropped that...
If you're a Caitlin Clark fan, if you're an Indiana Fever fan, this is something you already know. However, for the haters out there, the old WNBA fandom, many of you call them the slows, for those fans, they're in complete denial.
Basically validated what Clark fans have been screaming from the rooftops all season long. This isn't just about one player anymore. This is about power, influence, and the complete reshaping of professional women's basketball as we know it. Let's rewind for just a second, because the context here matters more than you might think. Forbes, along with analytics powerhouses STN Digital and Zoom Analytics, just released the most comprehensive social media valuation report in WNBA history. They didn't just glance at a few posts or...
We've tried to tell people Caitlin Clark moves the needle unlike anybody else in this league or everybody else in this league. It just sort of is what it is. Fans are coming to see one particular player, and along with that, carries over the support to the entire
estimate some numbers. No, they tracked over 20,000 pieces of content across Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, and YouTube throughout the entire season. They measured impressions, engagements, and most importantly, what advertisers would actually pay to get that same level of exposure through traditional paid ads. And when the final numbers came in, the basketball world wasn't just surprised. They were stunned into silence. The Indiana Fever's social media presence was valued at $55 million. Let that sink in.
They are worth a lot of money, and I can tell you right now, that's a little over 5 times higher than the next WNBA team. 5 times higher.
In for a moment. 55 million. That's not a typo. That's not an exaggeration. And that's not some inflated estimate to generate clicks. That's the cold, hard, data-backed reality of what Caitlin Clark and the Fever have built in just one season. But here's where it gets absolutely wild. Second place went to the Dallas Wings at $8.61 million. The gap between first and second place is over $46 million. This isn't a close race. This isn't even a competitive standing situation.
Let's go down here. Just scroll down. The Indiana Fever's staggering $55 million social media evaluation speaks volumes.
Fever are operating in a completely different stratosphere, a totally separate universe that no other WNBA team can even begin to touch right now. And listen, for the people who've been saying this all along, for the fans who showed up to watch Caitlin Clark play and stayed because they fell in love with the entire Fever squad, this report is total vindication. But for the critics, for the old guard WNBA fans who kept insisting that the league's growth was evenly distributed and that multiple players were equally responsible.
Growing popularity of WNBA across social media, social agency STN Digital, and analytics and measurement platform Zoom teamed up to quantify the league's online impact with a newly released WNBA social rankings
for the surge in popularity. These numbers are harsh, unavoidable reality check. You can argue narratives all day long. You can push whatever storyline feels comfortable or politically correct, but you cannot argue with data this comprehensive, this objective, and this devastatingly clear. So when Stephanie White went live 2 minutes ago and confirmed that Caitlin Clark just won this $10 million Fame Award, it wasn't just a nice moment or a feel-good story. It was the universe aligning, the basketball gods nodding in approval, and the business world
An insight report. The research analyzes how every team performed across social media during the 2025 season and identifies which clubs and content pieces generated the most engagement, impressions, and estimated.
Finally catching up to what the fans already knew. Clark isn't just a talented player. She's a cultural phenomenon, a business juggernaut, and a marketing goldmine unlike anything women's basketball has ever seen before. Now, let's break down what the Forbes report actually revealed, because these aren't just impressive numbers. They're franchise-altering, league-shifting metrics that will impact business decisions for years to come. The Fever racked up 38.73 million engagements and 1.17 billion impressions during the study period, which ran from May 16th to September 11th. That's billion with a capital B. And just to put that in perspective for you, that's more impressions than most professional sports teams across any league generate in an entire year across all their social platforms combined. We're talking about the WNBA here, a league that has historically struggled to break through the mainstream media noise and capture sustained national attention. And yet, here's the Fever absolutely dominating the social media landscape in ways that have marketing executives and brand managers losing their minds over the untapped potential. But wait, because it gets even crazier. The Fever had a single YouTube video that was valued at over $750,000 in equivalent advertising value. One video, not a season-long campaign, not a multi-platform rollout, not a coordinated marketing blitz. One piece of content was worth $750,000, and that number is actually higher than some WNBA teams' entire social media presence for the whole season. Think about that for a second. One Fever video is worth more than everything certain franchises posted combined. That's not just winning the social media game. That's rewriting the entire playbook and forcing everyone else to figure out how they're going to keep up. The methodology behind these valuations is important to understand because this isn't guesswork or biased analysis. The social value metric calculates exactly what advertisers would have to pay to achieve the same level of exposure through paid media campaigns. So when we say the Fever social media is worth $55 million, that literally means if companies wanted to buy that same number of impressions and generate that same level of engagement through traditional advertising, it would cost them $55 million. The Fever are getting all that value organically, just by posting content that their fans genuinely want to consume, share, comment on, and come back for more of. That's the dream scenario for any brand or franchise, and the Fever stumbled into it by drafting one generational talent who happened to completely transform their entire business model overnight. Now, let's talk about what these numbers actually mean for the league and why the Chicago Sky finishing in 5th place might be the most revealing piece of information in this entire report. The Sky came in at $6.35 million in social media value, which sounds respectable until you realize there's a $48.69 million gap between them and the Fever. All season long, we heard the narratives, we watched the media coverage, we saw the constant comparisons suggesting that two players were equally transformative for the WNBA's growth trajectory. But the social media valuation just completely obliterated that storyline. This isn't a close competition. This isn't a matter of opinion or perspective. This is quantifiable proof that one player is generating engagement and value at a level nobody else in the league can even approach right now. The Dallas Wings deserve serious credit though, because they posted incredible year-over-year growth with engagement up 55% and their social value climbing 34%. A lot of that success can be attributed to Sophie Cunningham's social media savvy and her ability to create content that resonates with fans. She's landed major sponsorships with brands like Arby's because she understands how to market herself and build a genuine connection with her audience. But even with that explosive growth, even with everything going right for the Wings, they're still nowhere near the Fever's stratospheric numbers. That just shows you how far ahead Caitlin Clark's impact truly extends beyond just basketball performance. The Las Vegas Aces, finishing 3rd despite being defending champions with multiple All-Stars on their roster, tells you something crucial about modern sports fandom. Winning alone doesn't automatically drive social media engagement or create the kind of passionate fan investment that translates into real business value. The Aces are incredibly successful on the court, but they don't generate the same level of fan interest, emotional connection, or content engagement as teams with more marketable personalities and compelling narratives. Championship banners are great. They're the ultimate goal, but they don't automatically convert into social media dominance if people aren't emotionally invested in your players as individuals, as characters in the ongoing story. And speaking speaking of market advantages that don't guarantee success, the New York Liberty coming in fourth is somewhat surprising given that they're located in the largest media market in the entire country. You'd think being in New York would provide massive structural advantages for social media growth and audience engagement, but location only matters if you have players and content that people actually care about following. The Liberty are competitive, well-run, professionally managed, but they don't have anyone generating Caitlin Clark levels of fascination, and that reality limits their social media ceiling regardless of how big their home market happens to be. Some people will try to argue that the Fever just have a better social media strategy or a more talented content creation team, and sure, there's probably some truth to that observation. STN Digital did work directly with the Fever on some campaigns and content optimization strategies, which likely helped maximize the value they were already generating. But here's the fundamental truth that blows that argument apart. You can hire the best social media team in the entire world. You can have unlimited budget and resources. But if your players aren't interesting to fans, if they don't create moments that people want to share and talk about, your content just won't perform. The Fever's numbers are astronomical because fans want Caitlin Clark content. They want the highlights, the updates, the behind-the-scenes footage, the practice clips, the interviews, everything. The demand drives the supply, not the other way around. And that distinction matters enormously when you're trying to understand what's actually happening here. This report also highlights something the WNBA has been genuinely reluctant to fully embrace, which is that star power matters. Individual, transcendent talent matters. The league has tried really hard to push this egalitarian message that everyone is equally important and everyone deserves equal attention and equal promotion. But that's just not how sports fandom works in reality. People connect with specific players. They buy jerseys of particular athletes. They tune in to watch certain stars perform at the highest level. The sooner the WNBA accepts that fundamental reality and builds its marketing infrastructure around its biggest stars, the faster the league will continue to grow and capture mainstream attention. The business implications of these numbers are staggering when you really think them through. When the Fever can show potential sponsors that their content reaches over 1 billion impressions and generates nearly 40 million engagements, they have serious leverage in sponsorship negotiation. Brands desperately want access to highly engaged audiences, and the Fever have proven beyond any doubt that they can deliver that engagement at a scale no other WNBA team can currently match. That advantage translates directly into real revenue through sponsorships, advertising deals, and strategic partnerships that will fund roster improvements, facility upgrades, and long-term organizational growth. And here's what this means for franchise decision-making moving forward. When one player is responsible for generating this much social media value, this much fan engagement, this much business opportunity, you do absolutely whatever it takes to keep that player happy and on your roster. You build the entire franchise around them. You support their vision. You invest in their success. You make sure they have everything they need to thrive both on and off the court, because losing them would be utterly catastrophic for your bottom line. The Fever aren't just thinking about wins and losses anymore. They're thinking about engagement metrics, impression counts, social media value, and all the business analytics that come with having a once-in-a-generation transcendent star on your team. This report should also serve as a massive wake-up call for other WNBA franchises, because if one team can generate 55 million in social value while everyone else is stuck in single digits, that means there's enormous opportunity being left on the table. Other teams need to study what the Fever are doing, understand why it works, figure out their own unique angles, and create compelling content that genuinely resonates with fans and builds passionate communities. Otherwise, this gap is only going to continue widening, and the league will become increasingly top-heavy in terms of attention, revenue, and cultural relevance. The estimated media value model used in this study is exactly how major brands and corporations think about social media return on investment. They analyze impressions and engagement rates, then calculate what that organic exposure would cost through paid advertising channels. The fact that the Fever are generating $55 million in equivalent advertising value just through organic content is absolutely incredible from a business perspective. That's essentially free marketing that would cost tens of millions to replicate through traditional advertising campaigns. And it's all happening naturally because fans can't get enough of watching Caitlin Clark and the Fever compete. So when Stephanie White confirmed 2 minutes ago that Caitlin Clark just won a $10 million Fame Award, it wasn't random, it wasn't unexpected, and it wasn't controversial. It was the inevitable result of what happens when talent, timing, personality, and market demand all converge perfectly. The numbers don't lie, the data doesn't have an agenda, and the business world has finally caught up to what the fans knew all along. Caitlin Clark isn't just moving the needle for the Indiana Fever. She's operating in a completely different universe than everyone else in terms of social media value, fan engagement, and cultural cultural impact. The debate is over, the numbers are in, and the future of the WNBA just got a whole lot more interesting.